Hello and welcome, I am your CodeMonk, and in this video we're going to create the health system and UI from Apex Legends. Let's begin. So Apex Legends has a bunch of really interesting systems, and in here we're going to create the health system. It's relatively simple to implement, but nicely complex during gameplay. So first we have a normal health bar. It has 100 HP, and when we get hit, the bar goes down. Just like that. Then we have our shield segments, which as you saw, it absorbs the damage before the health. So we have the shield bars separated into 4 segments at most. How many segments you have is dependent on the body armor you have equipped. Then we have the various items we can use. So again, let's cause some damage. And we can use the shield cell to repair our shield, and a syringe and a medikit to repair our health. So let's create all of these elements and have our very nice final bar. Alright, so let's do it. First, let's create the health bar and the UI just like in the game. So here in my canvas, let's start off by creating. Alright, so here is the basic setup. We have the background containing our background. We have a player name text containing the name of the player. Then we have a armor and a helmet display. Each of them has a background sprite, and then on top of it a item sprite. The armor will affect how many shield segments we have, and the helmet doesn't actually impact the health system, but still it is part of the UI. So now here in the textures folder, I have all the textures needed to display the various health bars. Here is for the health bar, and then for the shield bar, the first one is different from the other one, so I've got the first one and I've got the others. So let's set up the health bar. First, as normal, we make a container. And inside we have our bar just like that. And behind the bar we are going to have a background, which will use the exact same sprite except on a dark gray color. Alright, so now on our bar, in here on the image type, instead of using simple, we're going to use filled. We're going to choose horizontal, going from the left to the right, and so on. And now in here we now have a very nice fill amount that goes from 0 to 1 that we can modify to change how much health our character currently has. So this is the only field we need to modify when updating our bar. Now let's deal with the shield bars, which will have very much the same composition as our health bar. And then on the shield, we also have another sprite on top of it. Just like that, it has a nice outline. So this is the very first shield bar, which as you can see, it is slanted only on the right side. On the left side, it is perfectly vertical. So let's duplicate this to make the second shield, except instead of using that sprite, we're going to use the shield slanted sprite. And yep, there it is. And now let's fill up all the other segments. Alright, so that's all of our shield bars correctly located. So now that we have everything set up in the editor, let's make our code. So here on the scripts, let's make a new C# script. This will be the character window. So first on awake, let's grab references to all of our objects. Okay, so here are all of our references. As you can see, the health bar is on health bar, and then the bar, and then we get the image component. So let's see. That's the health bar. Inside we have the bar, and then we have our image, which then we access this component. So again, we can modify the fill amount. Okay. So in here, let's test to see how we're going to modify the bars. So we simply test the health image and set the fill amount to, let's say, 0.3F. So the health bar should be at 30%. So let's see. In here, drag the character window script. Okay, let's see. And yep, there's the health bar currently being displayed at 30%. All right, now back into the code. Now in here, this script will only handle the visuals. So we're going to have all the mechanics for our health system in a separate class. So let's make that class. A new C# script, this will be our character. So this will be the class that holds all the logic for the character and is completely separate from all of our visuals. So the first thing we need to know is what equipment this character is using, which will modify how many shield bars are visible. So let's use an enum to define our various equipment types. So we have an enum for our body armor, then we have a field to store that body armor. So now let's make a constructor. And in that constructor, we set the body armor by default to bodyArmor.none. Also a public function to return our body armor. And a function to set it. Alright, so this is the very basic character class that contains all of our equipment. So now let's test our code. For testing, let's create a game handler, which will be our basic starting script, responsible for creating and modifying the character, as well as giving the character window the character reference. So let's make a very simple, call it our game handler, and we're just going to drag it onto our game handler game object, okay? So in here on our void awake, let's create a character. And now we're going to tell the character window to display using this character. So let's grab a reference for the character window. We're going to drag this reference in the editor. And then on our character window, we're going to have a function to set our character. So let's make that function right now. Go into the character window. And here make a public void set character. Alright, so we have everything set up in order to test. So in here, let's just do a debug.log on our character, just to make sure it was correctly set. So again, we have the game handler just running our awake. On awake, it creates a new character, and it tells the character window to display using that character. And on the character window, we simply set our internal field, and we do a debug.log to make sure it was set. So let's run. And yep, there's in the console a character object. Okay, great. So now with our character, we can go into our character window, and we're going to enable or disable the shield segments based on the armor of that character. So let's make a function to do that. We ask the character to return its body armor. So body armor, we're going to go into the character and get the equipped body armor, okay? Then let's do a switch on that body armor. Case we have no body armor, then we're just going to hide all of our shield segments. In order to hide it, we're simply setting the game object to active to false. Case we have body armor.tier1, then we only show the first one, and so on and so forth. Alright, so this should be correctly displaying all of the shield segments based on what the character is currently equipping. Let's just change the code to make it easier to follow. So in here we set them all as inactive in the beginning. Then we do a switch and we simply set some of those back to true. So we're doing the exact same thing, just easier to follow. And here, after we set the character, we update the shield segments. Alright, so that should be correct. Let's try running the code and seeing if all of them are disabled. And yep, there you go, only the health bar is visible, all of the others are invisible. Now let's go into the game handler. And after we create the character, let's do character.set the equipped body armor, and let's give it a tier 2. Now let's see how many segments are visible. And yep, there it is, now 2 segments are visible. Okay, so our logic is working. Now the shield segments also change their color based on the tier of their armor, so let's deal with that. So here we have the code. We are defining a body armor color. Then if it's tier 1, we set it to a simple color, then another color, another, and in the end we update all the images with the body armor color. So now we need to define all of these colors. So we want to do them as a constant. So let's go into the character, and up here, let's do a public const color. This will be the tier 1 color, and we do a color. Now in here we have an error since color cannot be defined as a constant. So one trick we can use to make a color act pretty much like a constant is to make this, instead of const, make it a static read only. Just like that we can instantiate a color and it works perfectly fine. So we will define a tier 1, 2, and 3. And on the character window, let's use that. So we use the character.tier1 color. Alright, so we are now using those constants. So let's go and set these. Alright, so here are our colors. Now let's go and see if our bars are being correctly tinted. And also one more thing, in here this is actually not correct based on how the game works. On tier 1 you actually have 2 bars, on tier 2 you have 3, and on tier 3 you have 4. Alright, so that should be working just like in the game. Let's see. And yep, there it is. With a tier 2 body armor we have 3 segments and they are tinted in blue. Now let's try a tier 3. Change this to a tier 3 body armor. And yep, there it is. Now we have 4 segments tinted in purple. Alright, great. Now let's also update the armor icon in here. So let's go here, make a private void update body armor icon. And we're going to do very much the exact same thing we did in here. We get the body armor from the character, we do a switch on it. Okay, so after updating the shield segments, we update the body armor icon. So we go down here into this function. Very much the same method that we did previously. We get the body armor. First we set the icon to invisible. And if we have no body armor equipped, then we keep that body armor icon invisible. If we do have something, then we set it to visible. And we set the background color to the character tier color. Okay, let's see. Okay, so here we are with a tier 3 body armor, and as you can see there's the icon saying tier 3. Now let's change it. Now let's say instead we have no body armor. And yep, the icon is invisible and the shield bars are also all invisible. Okay, great. So now we can visually see what item we have equipped and how many segments that item gives us. Now let's actually set things up so we can see the damage. So here on the character class, let's create 2 fields. So we have a health for our health amount and a shield for the shield amount. Now let's add some damage functions. And now in here we need to figure out how much will be shield damage and how much is health damage. So we do if our damage amount, if it is under the shield amount, then here the shield absorbs all damage. If not, then the shield cannot absorb all damage. So let's calculate how much health will be damaged. So we decrease the health by the damage amount minus what was absorbed by the shield. And then we set the shield to 0. So if we have 10 shield and we are taking 20 damage, we get hit on the health by 20 minus 10, which equals just 10. So we get 10 health damage and the shield goes to 0. Alright, so this should be working. After this, let's do a text pop-up just so we see our stats. I'm going to use the CodeMonkey utilities to go down here and create a text pop-up. You can download the utilities for free from unitycodemonkey.com. So using from the CMDebug class, do a text pop-up on the mouse position. And for the text, let's show the shield amount and then the health amount. And now we also need to define the initial values for the health and the shield. So when we create a character, let's give it a full health. So health equals, and now we need a health max. So we have a constant for the maximum health and one for the shield amount per segment. So we set the health to our health maximum. And when we set the equipped body armor, let's set the shield as well. Alright, so when we set the equipped body armor, we set the shield. If we have none, then we set it to 0. If not, we set it by the shield amount per segment, and here 2 segments, 3 and 4. Alright, great. So we now have our shield and health values being correctly instantiated and a damage function to reduce them. So let's go into the game handler to test it. And here let's create a debug button to test that damage. So again, the CMDebug class contains a very nice function to create a button on the UI. So this function lets me create a button on a certain position on the UI, in this case just under the center of our screen. It will say damage 20, and when we click, it will execute this action, which will trigger 20 damage to our character. So let's see. Okay, so there it is. There's the debug button and our character correctly set up with a tier 2 armor. So essentially he has 100 health and 75 armor. So if I click on it, yep, there you go, 55, 100. So the armor went down by 20. Click again and it should say 35, 100. Yep, click again, it should say 15, 100. And now it should say 0 and 95, since the whole shield will be depleted and we will start taking damage on our health. Yep, there you go, 0, 95, and so on and so far. Okay, great. So the logic for the shield and the health is correctly working. So now back in the code, and here on the character, after we take damage, we need to tell the window to update the visual representation of that damage. So for that, let's create an event. So let's go all the way up here, make a public event. We're going to call this onHealthShieldChange. So this is our event, which we're going to trigger after we cause some damage. So if we have subscribers to that event, trigger that event with this and event args.empty. Okay. So this event is fired when we change our health or shield. So now we can capture this event on our character window. In here, when we set the character, let's do character.onHealthShieldChanged. We subscribe to this event. And here, let's call a function called updateHealthShield. And let's make that. Now in here, first let's just update the health, since it's very simple. We just go into our health image and we set the fill amount. Now in here we need a normalized value. In order to get a normalized value, we divide the current value by the maximum value. So let's go into the character and make a function to return our health value. So in here we are returning the health. Okay, so now we can go in here and we get the character.getHealth divided by the character.healthMax. Alright, so just like this, we get our normalized value. However, in here, since we are dividing two ints, we need to make sure one of them gets cast to float, so we get the correct result. Otherwise, we would just get 0. So in here, let's just cast this first one down to a float. Okay, so let's run the code and see if the health bar is correctly updating. Okay, so here we are. There's the character with full health. Alright. Now I click on damage, there you go, first it's damaging the shield, and now it will damage the health. Yep, there you go, it cut off by a bit, another bit, another, and so on. Alright, great. So we are correctly updating our health. Now let's deal with the shield. Now the shield is more tricky than the health since it's split into segments instead of a complete bar. So in order to get the amount, we also need a function on our character to return the shield. So in here, let's define an int for the shield, and we get the character.getShield. Okay. Now let's cycle through all of our segments. So we cycle through all 4 of our shield segments. And now in here, we need to know if the shield amount is on this particular segment. So let's calculate the shield segment min and max. So here we have the minimum for this particular shield segment. So the shield segment on index 0 will start off at 0 multiplied by something, so it will be 0. And the maximum will be 0 plus 1, which is 1, multiplied by the shield amount per segment, which is 25, so it will be 25. So the very first shield segment will display the shield amount from 0 to 25. So now we can calculate how much of the bar is empty or filled. So first we do if shield, if it is under our shield segment min. If it is under or equal to that amount, then this bar is completely empty. In here, let's define a shield array so we can easily use our indexes. Okay, so we have an array containing 0, 1, 2, 3. All right, so we can now go down here and use the same index. So the shield image array on index I, this one is completely empty, so we set the fill amount to 0. Okay, so then we do an else. So if it's not under the minimum, let's see if it's above the maximum. If it is above the maximum, then the bar is completely filled. So we set this to 1F, the bar is completely filled. And then finally, if it's not at the minimum or the maximum, then the shield is somewhere in between. So in here, we need to calculate the fill amount. Alright, so we calculate the fill amount by taking our shield, removing the minimum from that shield, and then defining by the amount per segment. So if the shield is 30 and we are checking the second segment, then essentially this will be 30 minus 25. So it will be 5 and then 5 divided by the shield amount per segment, and then we get the correct fill amount. Alright, so this should be working perfectly fine. Now we are also cycling through the shield bars that are hidden, but that is really not an issue. So let's test. So for starters, we got 3 bars since we got a tier 2 armor, and we have everything filled. Now I click on damage, and yep, there you go, there's the shield. As you can see, it was correctly damaged. The bar has a size of 25 and we damaged 20, so it does make sense that it's about in there. So continue damaging, and now it went through that bar and into that one, and again, and into that one, and into that one, and now that one, and now the health bar started going down. So as you can see, all the shield bars decreased correctly, and when they became empty, the health bar started taking damage. Now let's just test with different equipment. So here with no equip, let's damage, and yep, there you go, it just went through the health bar. And using tier 3, we can click, and yep, there you go, everything was filled. Now everything is starting to take damage, the shield is going down, and now the health bar is going down. Okay, great. So everything seems to be working perfectly fine. So now that we have damage working, let's deal with healing. Now the items that we can use are separated by what type they heal. So if we have 90 health and we heal with 20, we don't end up with 10 shield. So we have items for increasing our shield amount and items for increasing our health amount. So let's go into the character, and here let's make those functions. So here all we do is increase the health by our amount. Then we also do a clamp to make sure our health is within valid values. And the same thing on the shield. We increase the shield by our amount. Then we also do a clamp on the shield with a minimum of 0. And for our maximum, in here we actually still need a function to return our shield maximum. Alright, so we have a function that returns a shield maximum based on the body armor. And here we clamp it using that as the maximum. Alright, so we have 2 very simple functions to heal our health and heal our shield. And again, after we modify these variables, we need to trigger the event so we can notify our window. Alright, that should do it. Now let's make some buttons for testing. Alright, so we have a testing button to heal 25 health, heal 25 shield, then 100 health and 100 shield. And let's add another one that will heal both of them. Okay, let's test. Okay, here we are with a bunch of buttons. Now we first start off as completely full. Okay, so let's damage. There you go, damaging some shield. Now let's heal just 25 shield. Yep, there you go, the shield went up. Now let's heal the health. And yep, nothing happened since the health is already full. So continue damaging and damage down to the health. Now I heal health. Yep, works perfectly fine. Heal the shield, goes up, heal the shield 100, and everything goes up. Now go down again, heal the health, heal the shield, get it all down, and yep, every single button is working. We can increase the shield and health separately, and once we go past the health, shield does not go up, and get both of them and damage. Alright, great. So we can now damage and heal our character, and whenever we do, our window automatically updates. Alright, so now let's add some effects. First, let's make a red bar that is visible for a while after getting hit. That way we can see how much damage we took when we were last hit. So let's go into the editor, and here on the health bar, let's duplicate the normal health bar, tint it in red, and put it under the normal bar, okay? Essentially, this bar is shown to display damage that the player took and then fades away. So it like starts in here and then fades. So let's go into our code. So we get the reference for our damage health image. Then we're going to need a timer to know when to fade it. And let's define a constant for the fade timer max. Alright, so we have all the information we need to be able to do our nice effect. So let's go down into our update. And on the update, let's first test if the image is visible by testing the color alpha. So we go into the damage health image, we get the color, we test the alpha. So if the alpha is bigger than 0, then the damaged health image is currently being displayed. So if it is visible, we count down the damage health timer. And then if the damage health timer is under 0, then we start lowering the image alpha. Alright, so we test if the damage health image is visible. If so, we count down the timer. If the timer is over, then we create a new color. Essentially, we'll lower the color.alpha, and we're going to make it completely vanish within half a second. And we set the new color onto our damage health color. Okay, so that's pretty much it for our fade. Now what we need to do is show the damage health image when we get hit. Now, we also need to know the previous health amount, so we know the size of the bar to show. So let's go up here. So we store the previous health amount, so let's set it when we set the character. And down here, when the health or the shield has changed. So when the health changes, we set, first of all, the fade timer. Set it to the maximum. Okay. And now let's test if the damaged health image.color.alpha, if it is not visible, so if it is at 0, if it isn't visible, we need to set the correct size. So we size it based on the previous health amount. So essentially we do the same thing that we are doing for the health image, but for the damage health image, using the previous health amount divided by the health max. So the health image will contain the size of the bar as it is right now, and the damage health image will take on the previous size. And then we also set the color to the full alpha. Alright, so here it is our code. Again, we are resetting the timer whenever the health changes. If the health bar is invisible, then we set the size and we make it fully visible. If the health bar is already visible, then the only thing we're going to do is actually just set the alpha, so instead we put this out here. Alright, so let's see that effect. Okay, so here we are, no armor, full health. So let's try causing some damage. Yep, there's the red health bar showing how much we previously had. Now click it again. Yep, there you go, we previously had that one, so we can easily see that we took this amount of damage. Damage again, and yep, there you go, it stays in red and then vanishes after a while. So now let's heal. So now I'm fully healed, damage again, yep, there's the bar again showing, and if I get hit twice, it just resets the timer. So get hit twice, there you go, everything shows and everything disappears. Alright, so that's a great effect. Now let's add a final effect, which is flashing when we are on low HP. So again, we're going to duplicate our bar. This one will be always completely filled, and let's make it a darker red. So essentially when the health bar is too low, we're going to flash this by increasing and decreasing the alpha. Alright, so let's go into the code. So we grab the reference to the health flashing image. Now let's go into the update. And here let's deal with the flashing health image. We're always going to have it flashing, and then we either just enable or disable the game object. In order to do a flashing, we need to store a variable that will say either we're increasing or decreasing the alpha. So let's go up here. So we get the alpha change, and by default, let's set it in here. Let's set it to positive. So now we can go down into the update. We get the low health color, which is from the low health image dot color. So we get the low health color, then we increase the color dot alpha by the low health alpha change. Okay. And then we check if the low health color dot alpha, if it is bigger than 1F, then it has been fully flashed. So we need to reverse the alpha change. So we simply multiply it by minus 1F. So we reverse it. Okay. And we do the same thing if it is under 0. We also reverse it and we set it to 0. Okay. So after changing the low health color, we go into the low health flashing image and set the color to the new low health color. So this is our flashing code, and again, we're only going to run this code if the low health flashing image.gameObject is active. So if the game object is active, we run this code, and by default, that will be inactive. So let's go up here, and we take the game object and set the active into false. So by default, that flashing image is not visible. So all we need is to update this bar.setActive when we change our health. So let's go down here when the health has been changed. Let's set the active to be true if the character.getHealth, if it is under 30. So if we have under 30 HP, then this will be visible. If not, then it will be invisible. Okay, so let's test. There's the health bar just as normal. Now cause some damage. There's the normal one showing the damage. Okay. And the flashing one isn't visible. All right, great. Damage again, and still not visible, and 30 HP is about here, so it should now show up. And yep, there's the flashing right there. Since we are under 30 HP, it says flashing. Now if I heal, yeah, there you go, the flashing is vanished since we are no longer on drastic low HP. And damage again, there you go, that one showing how much damage we took, and that one is flashing since we have very low health. And heal, and there you go, heal again, now it's gone. Yep, great. Alright, so we have added some very nice effects. Now let's replace these testing buttons with some more proper buttons. And yep, we have replaced the testing buttons with some very nice buttons, and we can now still cause damage. There you go, there's the bar flashing. Now I increase the health, now I increase the shield, mega shield, damage at all, almost dead, everything flashing, heal everything, and yep, every single button works, so we can now damage and heal both our shields and our health. So there you have it, we created the health system and UI from Apex Legends. We have a health bar and a certain number of shield segments based on the body armor we have equipped. We can trigger damage, which first goes through the shields before damaging the health. We also have various items to regain health and shields. As always, you can download the project files and utilities from unitycodemonkey.com. If you have any questions, post them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. Subscribe for more videos and I'll see you next time.